IVM.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Musafir Stories, India's very own travel podcast, where each week we discuss the story of travelers in their own words and relive their experiences with you, our listeners.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of the Musafir Stories. Before we begin today's episode, we have an exciting offer to share with you. Have you ever longed to speak more efficiently at your workplace, convey your thoughts more clearly at a team meeting, or even a family get together in that case? If you want to grab the attention of your listeners to speak more clearly and to inspire them, we have something just for you. Speaking clearly, efficiently, and persuasively is a valuable skill in any walk of life. And we have this amazing lecture series on the Great Courses Plus to give you this edge on how to speak more efficiently in any setting. Well, for a limited time, yes, you heard it right, for a very limited time, the Great Courses Plus is offering the listeners of the Musafir Stories with 1 month of free access to all their courses. Hit the link in the show notes section or just type thegreatcoursesplus.com/Musafir to avail this offer. Guys, this is a limited time offer and you definitely do not want to miss it. So head over to the show notes section and check out the Great Courses Plus. As for today's episode, we have one of our favorite fellow podcaster and a friend who is sharing his travel journey with us. Let's listen to find out more.
So, with that introduction, we'd love to welcome Vaibhav Dewan, a traveler and host of Baapbeeti, a pregnant papa podcast. Hey, Vaibhav.
Hi, Saif. Hi, Faiza. How
Hi,
are you?
Vaibhav. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too.
Happy New Year to
and
you
we're
too.
looking forward to your coming up season of Baapbeeti podcast.
Yeah, I think
Season 2,
Yes, so
yes.
please tell us more about it.
Yeah, so first season was really good. I started writing Baapbeeti in lockdown because I had ample time while working from home, and it was a project which I wanted to do, but I always thought that I will do it by the end of 2020. But thankfully, to the lockdown, I started working on it in March, and I released the trailer in April, and then the journey began. Every fortnight, I was releasing one episode after the other. Total 14 episodes plus one bonus episode, a Father's Day special. And first season came to end on Diwali on 14th of November when my son was born in 2019. So it was like a commemorative kind of a episode,
Right.
because last year he was born and this year we were celebrating his first birthday. So Baapbeeti is a pun on Hindi word called Aapbeeti. Aapbeeti means whatever you are going
Right.
through. And nobody has spoken much about what a father goes through during pregnancy of the lady in the house. So while my son was being delivered, I was sitting in the corridor of the hospital, and I thought, what am I going through right now? I should document this. And I have been in the medium of audio for a long time now, and I know audio more than anything else. So I just thought, okay, if that's my forte, then why not I write it and I host it myself. So I conceived the idea of Baapbeeti, a pregnant papa podcast, and that's how it came. And first season is up, and I'm very happy that I was able to pull it through. And now the second season, which will start from mid-Feb onwards, it will talk about the not spoken about phenomena of a baby's journey from hospital to home. Because when we see Hindi cinema or any film, a baby is born and the film ends.
Right.
But a baby's journey from hospital to home can be really, really difficult. And I felt that because my son was in the ICU for about 7 days. So the second season talks about that the important journey of a baby from hospital to home. And then the third season will come. It will talk about pediatrics, first year of baby, how they start eating, how they start drinking. All of that will follow. So I say that a bap, a father, they don't retire. And so this podcast will also not retire, because I will learn from my child and I will narrate a story in my podcast.
Yes, of course. And we thoroughly enjoy Baapbeeti podcast, and we would urge all our listeners to go ahead and check out Vaibhav's podcast, for which we will add the links in the show notes section.
Yeah, a very unique
Thank
podcast,
you.
and we've had the good fortune of knowing Vaibhav personally as well. So that way, it's added joy for us to have Vaibhav on the podcast. But Vaibhav, without much ado, would you also please tell us where you're taking us and our listeners to today?
Yeah, so Baapbeeti is one of the other passions I have, but the first and foremost passion is to go out and travel. And I want to thank your podcast, Musafir Stories, that through you and while listening to you, I have driven to many places. For example, Khajuraho. It just happened recently. I went to Khajuraho and I played your podcast about 3 or 4 times so that I don't miss on spaces. And I want to thank all those people who have come to your podcast also. They have narrated such nice stories. Khajuraho is one of them. And also I would like to mention Kaziranga. Last year in 2019, when we were in Assam, I had taken a self-drive car from Guwahati and we were driving to Kaziranga. And my wife Swati was sitting right next to me. And by that time, she didn't know of you, both of you. And I told Swati that ये सैफ और फायजा है मेरे दोस्त हैं, इनका सुनते हैं इन्होंने काजीरंगा के बारे में क्या बोला है. And you had a guest on the show and they spoke about Kaziranga and Majuli.
Right.
And that was on our list to do. So your podcast has inspired so many journeys, and if I have a plan to a place, I always look up to Musafir Stories and I check if that place is covered on your podcast or not, because it will give me some insider stuff. And I think through this podcast today, when I will take you to Andamans, maybe this will inspire many other travelers who listen to Musafir Stories and they want an insider scoop.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, thank you, Vaibhav.
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for that feedback. It's always heartening to get some feedback that the podcast has been of use while listeners take up the journey. And yeah, looking forward to Andaman as well. It's been like on the list for us to do for a long time, and when you covered it recently, it just happened to work out really well. So looking forward to that. Now tell us a little bit more about Andaman, and for people who might not be very familiar with where this is, can you please chart out on the map where Andaman lies?
So when we were kids and we were studying geography, with the Indian political map, you will always get Sri Lanka as free island. Like, you will always have that country as free sitting down. And the other set of islands used to be Andaman and Lakshadweep. You can just only see as a dot. Okay. So on the other side, in the Bay of Bengal area, you will see a line of islands. They are Andaman Islands. And it's not just the line of islands. It's about 500 odd islands, and out of them about 35, you will have people on it. But a few, only a tourist can go to.
Yeah, exactly. And even when we speak, usually we speak of Andaman and Nicobar Islands together, but it's mostly the Andaman Islands that are actually
Open to
accessible.
tourists.
Yeah, exactly. So that's an important point as well.
So this going to Andamans was planned during our honeymoon, which was 5 years back. And now when we went to Andaman, we were having a baby in our hand, and all we could see around us was honeymoon couples. It was all Chuda brigade around us, because of the times we are living in. Not many international routes are open at the moment, and the only good place where people can go out for honeymoon and exotic looking is Andaman.
Right.
And even I had posted on my social media when I took a flight that I am mentally on a international roaming right now, because Andaman is very laid back. There is not much network, there is not much internet, and cash is still the king there. And you will in the times to come, if you hear any news as in India has got a tax haven, it can be Andaman, I feel, because a lot of money is transacted in cash only. I mean, if you will go and ask for Paytm or the modern digital modes of payment which we use in the cities, they're not even heard of. So cash is the king right now in Andaman. And so it was 14 when we had planned our trip to Andaman, me and my wife. And that time it was supposed to be our honeymoon trip. The itinerary was almost the same which I'm going to share today. The budget was very high because it was a honeymoon kind of a trip. But this time I was able to do it in a much budgeted way. And also the season this time hasn't kicked off in Andaman that well.
Nice. So, Vaibhav, calling out about when's the best time to visit Andaman. Can you tell us about that as well?
Yes, so October onwards, anytime is good.
Okay.
We traveled in December end, which is said to be the best time because it's holiday season. The water is good, there is sun. So October, November, December, January, and February, they are said to be the best months to visit Andaman. But one tip is that because it's on the Bay of Bengal area, the sun rises pretty early. So almost around 5:15, the sun used to be out, and it used to get dark around 5:30.
Okay.
So and I think like some parts in Assam, they want to have early daytime, and India can actually have a two part time zone.
Right.
Time zone, but yeah, it's a fair demand because most of the places used to get shut by 5:30.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely something to keep in mind. And really looking forward to how your itinerary was. Like you said, situated in the Bay of Bengal, so it's a fair way out from India, but very accessible from a lot of the major cities. And another interesting fact that I came across was if you look at the distance, it's Andaman is actually closer to, say, other countries, Southeast Asian countries like Thailand, than it is from the mainland India. But anyway, I think it makes for a good journey and also gives you that feel that you're actually leaving the country. But technically speaking, you do not require a passport to travel there, right? If you're an Indian citizen, Vaibhav, so that's not required. Now, let's talk a little bit more about Andaman now that you've given us the geographical context. But before we jump into the itinerary, a quick few quirky points about Andaman that I came across as well related to the history. I mean, it's a great place to be in terms of one wanting to explore the beaches and the islands and all of that. But even historically, it's been quite significant given sort of a strategic location that it's been. And I also found out that it's the name Andaman and Nicobar, right? The other island set of islands that go along with Andaman is actually, both of them are actually derived from Malay, the Malay language, and Andaman is actually derived from Hanuman, which in Malay is Handuman, I guess is what it was called.
Yes.
So that was really interesting. Yeah.
So when we were traveling around Port Blair and we had a guide with us, so he told us about that. The word Andaman has come from Hindu mythology character Hanuman, Anduman, so something like that. And the name Nicobar has come from a Tamil word which is called Nakavaram, which is land of the naked.
Yeah, and I guess this is the reference to the native people there, right? The indigenous tribes.
Yes.
There's a lot of indigenous tribes there as well. We'll touch upon them a little later on during the conversation, but that was interesting. And the other interesting bit I found was the Cholas actually had set up a naval base here back in the 1st century, right? And this is where they used to kind of launch their military expeditions to the Srivijaya Empire or modern day Indonesia. So some interesting tidbits there. And obviously a lot of us are aware of the colonial kind of history of Andaman as well, with the Britishers having set up some sort of a penal colony
and
there.
Japan too.
Yeah. For around the World War II, there was Japanese occupation of the place, and Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose actually at that time he was allied with the Japanese forces, was here briefly as well when the Japanese kind of took over, and he was I think managing here for about 2 or 3 years. So a lot of rich historical past as well, and I'm sure some of this will kind of show with some of the places you visited. So we'll talk more about that. But just wanted to touch this and set some context as we set out on this journey with you. But yeah, that's enough talking for me. Now you kind of tell us how your journey here was and how long of an itinerary was this that you planned?
Okay, so I did a very touristy circuit of Andaman because I was traveling with a baby.
Sure.
And whereas my brother had gone to Andamans last year and he had an extensive tour. I had seen his itinerary, but that is actually for the people who can travel with the flow. But we had to restrict our travel. So my plan was 7 nights and 8 days with three days in Port Blair and 1 day buffer. And 2 days on Havelock and 1 night in Neil. So this was my itinerary. Okay. And I wanted to tell you that there are 2 ways to get to Andaman. There is you can even reach Andaman by boat, but it will take 3 days, and you can only board a ship only from 3 places in India. One is Vishakhapatnam, second is Kolkata, and third is Chennai. And the boats they have very less frequency, to be honest. And if you are going from mainland, like from Delhi, you might have one flight maybe a day, or maybe one flight running 4 days in a week. But from Kolkata and Chennai, you have direct access to Andamans and Port Blair.
Okay, cool. So it looks like roughly a week-long itinerary if you want to cover off the touristy spaces, but can easily be stretched to a longer itinerary if you like to kind of stay back and explore a lot of the places. And you started off from Chennai, I'm assuming, or where do you start off from?
No, we started from Bangalore, and there was a direct flight from Bangalore.
Right.
And when we came back via Chennai. Okay. So there was a flight with a layover in Chennai. So it's very hard to get a right itinerary fixed with the direct flight. You will have to have at least one flight which will have a layover.
Cool. And Port Blair is where you land into Andaman?
Yes. So the direct flight was to Port Blair. On day 1 of our travel, we had thought of keeping it very quiet because the flights which we took, they were at very off time. So we wanted to rest and also wanted to get little used to the place, because we were going from Bangalore, where the weather right now was about 16-17 degrees, and there in Andaman it was about 24-25 degrees during the day. And when we landed at Port Blair, we didn't want to do all the touristy stuff on the first very day. So we went to a secluded place called Chidiya Tapu.
Okay, right.
So as the name suggests, Chidiya Tapu. Chidiya means the bird, and Tapu means island. So we went to this place called Chidiya Tapu, and we stayed in a forest guest house. So it is very difficult to even get a booking towards the forest guest house, because you need to know somebody in the forest. And I tried doing this because I didn't want to stay in the hustle bustle of Port Blair, because there are a lot of hotels, and all these hotels, they start from the range of 2,500 per night to about 8,000 per night. So I was thinking of a place which is little different. So I went to Chidiya Tapu. We all went to Chidiya Tapu, and the fun fact here is that because this Andaman is little laid back, so you will see some old vehicles also on the road. So we took Ambassador for our trip, and I wanted to have that feel of Ambassador, and I wanted to have that bit of colonial feel of sitting in the back of vintage car. Right. Because Ambassador, they stopped making it in around 2013-14, I think.
Yeah.
And because there's a lot of influence of Calcutta on these islands, Ambassador came here naturally, because Hindustan Motors were based out of Calcutta.
Yeah.
So we hired Ambassador for our trip. First day was to Chidiya Tapu, which has got a beautiful beach where you cannot swim because you can see crocodiles around there.
Interesting.
So it's it's not an accessible beach, but yes, very beautiful. The sunsets are. Chidiya Tapu is actually known for sunset. So if you will have any usual itinerary, everybody goes to Chidiya Tapu just to see the sunset. So we stayed at Chidiya Tapu for a day, and the location we were staying at, as I told you, was a forest guest house, and it was a forest property. So you could see a lot of trees around there, and there was a big machan. You sit there at the machan, a place from where you can take a view of the forest, and you can spot a lot of birds there. Okay. And recently I have got into birding. So one of the reasons was to, I was very kicked about going to Chidiya Tapu to see other indigenous birds of Andaman. And from Chidiya Tapu, there is a small trek. The place is called Suicide Point. So there's a trek which goes past thick, dense forest, which is on a hill, and you get to the end of that hill, and then from there you can view the whole bay or probably whole sea from there. And if you have to just imagine a mouth of a dragon which is half submerged in water and half out, and you can walk on the nape of the dragon to get to the end of it. So the place, it was about 2.5 kilometer odd trek, and I was carrying my baby in my hand because my wife was behind, she was walking, and I was carrying my baby in my hand, and I was thinking, because I come from Punjabi background, so most of the babies when they go on a trek, they always go to Vaishno Devi for the Jai Mata Di, and I was telling my baby, see how fortunate you are not going to a religious place, but you are going to do an adventure with me. So I trekked with him about 2.5 kilometers up and 2.5 kilometers down. And while we were going to this suicide point, the so-called suicide point, on the way, the route was almost like Meghalaya, where we had done our earlier treks. It was little damp. It was, the sunlight would not even enter. It was shady, but the trek was beautiful.
Yeah.
I quite liked it because the roots were running from here and there, and you're climbing the roots, you're stepping on the roots, and you're walking ahead. It was a very good trek for the first day.
It really amazes me who would want to commit suicide after living there.
Correct.
And
it was so beautiful.
getting to walk those beautiful terrain. We speak of it as an island, but the fact of the matter is you have beautiful beaches, but a majority of the island is a lot of very thick vegetation, like what you're mentioning, right? So
yes,
I think that's something to kind of explore, and it's great that you got an opportunity not just to enjoy the beaches around, but also do some of the treks, right? So that's great. Now, just one thing before we kind of move on from this first pit stop you made, in terms of getting around, right? You didn't mention about the Bengali influence and all of that, but in terms of languages, I guess Hindi should be be able to get around.
So Hindi, everybody speaks Hindi, everybody understands Hindi, and first language I think very commonly spoken there is Bengali. Earlier it used to be Tamil. Bengali has taken over. And just another fun fact, what I felt is that people from Bengal and Calcutta, they feel that Andaman is their territory. I feel that because they have a high court there, which is run by Calcutta.
Yeah.
There's a high court which is Calcutta High Court, and most of the restaurants they serve you Bengali cuisine there.
Yeah.
And the roadside restaurants, the roadside small places will sell you parota, which is like a Tamil influence, and parota, idli and chutneys you will get very easily on roadside, which is not that expensive. Whereas going to a restaurant in Andaman is expensive, and eating vegetarian is expensive.
Yeah, definitely. And also some of the things that cannot be grown locally, and they have to be kind of procured from the mainland, I'm assuming. So they might be a little bit expensive. But yeah, you're right about the influence of Bengal and even Tamil Nadu for that matter. Apparently, Hindi, Bengali, and Tamil are the top three languages that are spoken. Should definitely be given how touristy it is. Also, should be easy for you to get around if you know, say, English and Hindi, and a lot of international tourists as well. So, getting around should not be that much of a problem. Quickly moving on from here. What was your next stop? You've kind of spent some time at Chidiya Tapu and also did this trek to Suicide Point.
Yes.
What next?
So it was day one, and the second day we wanted to go to another place, which was another managed property by Forest. It's called Vandoor, and Vandoor has got a beautiful marine park there, Mahatma Gandhi Marine Park, and it is just opposite this. It lies just opposite across the street where we were putting up in Vandoor, and this place has got. It will give you a quick description of corals. It will give you a quick description of the marine life which is found in Andamans, and there are things which you never know about like corals. Is there a name to a coral? I didn't even know of it. So when we went to this Mahatma Gandhi Marine Park, I could see so many corals being named there. And it was a beautiful experience to go to this marine park. And when you go to this museum, it's free to enter.
Okay.
And from this point in Vandoor, there is a jetty which you get to go to Jolly Boy. It's an island, Jolly Boy, and this island also has got a beautiful water, and it is known for watching fish through a glass boat.
Okay.
So Jolly Boy is another good pit stop if you have time, because we didn't have much time to go to Jolly Boy, and we couldn't go there, but it's a must go place because I've seen the pictures. The water is really good, and the journey from Vandoor to Jolly Boy is also very good.
Interesting option.
So second day was in Vandoor, and then we took a trip to Port Blair because we had not much to do. So on that day we went to Cellular Jail, the iconic Cellular Jail. It's a symbol of Port Blair, I will say, or Andaman. It was made in 1906, completed in 1906, and it is a place where most of the revolutionaries, I will say, were kept.
Yeah,
Right.
a lot of the freedom fighters and all of them, like we said earlier, the Britishers actually started using the Andamans as penal colony, right? They would bring in political prisoners here just so, I mean, one, it was a way of kind of setting them straight and also trying to like isolate them from the mainland. So actively used, and I believe about 80,000 prisoners in all were moved here during the time of the Britishers. How's your experience with the Cellular Jail? Because like you said, it's very iconic, and one of the first things that pops up to mind if you think about Port Blair, right? How's your experience visiting here?
Yeah. So you must have heard of the common phrase "Kala Pani."
Yeah.
That is what Cellular Jail used to be called as. With Kala Pani, that's how they used to scare the people in India that if you will commit a crime, you will be sent to Kala Pani, because from there nobody can escape, and that's how the jail has been designed. All you can see around yourself is water, and none of the inmates could see each other. That's the way it was designed. That your window is probably a back wall of another inmate. So you cannot see each other. So there's a story that there was one inmate who came to Kalapani, to Cellular Jail, and it was his brother who came to the same jail after 2 years, but they didn't know that they were in the same jail for 2 years. They just got to know each other when they were having food. So that's one story, and there used to be seven corridors, or seven long
wings.
corridors of 7 wings of Cellular Jail, but out of them only now 2 are remaining. Others, they have changed into hospital and other things which were required for the city when it was growing. It has become a monument of importance in Andaman. We took a guide who charges around 200 rupees to show you around, and it is worth it. So as soon as you enter the jail, on the right hand side you will see a museum which they have created, and as soon as you have seen the museum, you have taken a bit of download on the history. There's a guide who's waiting for you outside, and they will take you around, and then they will show you the way it has been structured, the way it has been architectured.
And very, very isolated, like you said, right? You could not have any sort of even view into where the other inmates were. Each of the cell was facing the backside of the other wing, so there was no way to look at that. And I also read up somewhere that even if the inmates just saying that they got access to the key, they could not open up the locks from inside. So they were kind of designed in such a way. It was just a way of, torturing them. And the prisoner or the inmates that you made reference to, the 2 brothers, they're the notable or popular figures that are usually associated with this, the Savarkar brothers, right? Vinayak Savarkar and Babarao Savarkar. At the same point, they were inmates at the jail, but they never knew for over a period of 2 years. So that was the way, I guess, in which people were kind of isolated and tried to basically break you down mentally and physically also via the various torture.
And the worst part was that, these people were brought to Andaman as inmates, and they're the ones who made the jail, and they're the ones who were staying in the jail. They were working for the jail, and they were still being tortured.
Yeah.
How bad was that?
Yeah, some of the lesser known history, I mean, we don't get as much insight into it, and also some of the things that are the infamous past of the Raj, I guess, the colonial Raj. But yeah, I think it's one of the iconic places to visit, just to have a look of the troubles some of the freedom fighters went through, and also how they were tortured. So
Yeah, but
definitely,
because when you enter the jail, you just get that whiff of air, you know. Oh man, this place has got so much of history with it and so much of
yeah.
trauma associated with this place. You just get that feeling, that vibe just crosses you. And there is one wing which is created to show the kind of torture was being done. It's called Atyachar Factory. So they have put mannequins in that factory to just to show how they were tortured. They were asked to take oil, and when they will stop, something will happen to them. They were put on a flogging frame. They were given a there was a lot of torture which one can see and which one can feel whilst being there at the jail. And the best part is in the evening of this jail when you can see a sound and light show, which is very popular in Andaman. That these two wings, which where people can go, they all lit up in the night, and then there is a story which is narrated. And in the Hindi version, you will hear Om Puri as the sound, and in English version you will hear Tom Alter as a sound. And they have placed about 8 or 9 speakers around, and when you're sitting in the foyer and you're listening to the story of Kala Pani of Cellular Jail, you will feel that, you know, troops are marching past you. The songs of struggle and songs of freedom is being sung around you. It has been designed really well. But now, a new thing which I want to tell, which has just started in Andaman, is the Ross Island tour. And in Ross Island, there's another sound and light show which happens, and it's in voice of Shabana Azmi. So I will recommend whosoever is listening to please put on your itinerary a tour to Ross Island in the evening when you can see that show, because it's the latest show right now running in Andaman. And to go to Ross Island, it's another experience also. So Ross Island used to be the capital for Andaman, and it was a small island which people from Port Blair thank now, because during 2004 tsunami, it was that island which saved Port Blair to get flooded, because it is just 2 kilometers away from Port Blair. You just have to take a ferry and you have to reach there. But this, if Ross Island was not there, there was a lot of chaos which one could have seen in 2004 tsunami. So people thank Ross Island for being there. And during the British time, it was a place where Britishers had made their fancy banquets for dancing, for having good time, a church, and all of that. Now all of that stands in ruin. So when you get to Ross Island, which is now called as Netaji Subhash Chandra Island, because most of the islands have been now
Yeah.
Indianized. Even Neil and Havelock, they have been Indianized. So Neil and Havelock are now called Swaraj and Shahid, and it is because as soon as India got freedom from Britain in Andaman, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, he said that okay, Andaman is now called Swaraj Shahid.
Yep.
So a lot of history there. When you will be going around Andaman, you will read up and you will know you'll know more about it. So about Ross Island. So now everything is in ruins. Like I was telling you about the trees of Andaman. Now the big trees are holding those ruins. So when you go to these places, you will feel that you have come into the world of Harry Potter, because there are old buildings held by these trees, these branches. Tarzan, looking like, you know, that maybe a Tarzan will be flying around you. And during that time, they had got some deers on that island, and now that animal is accessible to all. So when you will be traveling around, the deer will come to you, and you can even touch the deer. Whereas when you go to any wildlife park here, it is prohibited to touch any wildlife. But here, that deer is like a common thing.
Yeah.
So deer and peacock, they just walk around you, and you take a cart, like a golf cart, which will take about $80, and they will show you all around the Ross Island, and it's 20-minute journey around Ross Island, and it is a bit of inclined slope when you see the place. On left and right, there are places like a banquet, old banquet, a church, a school, a bazaar, and all that history of Ross Island is narrated in a sound and light show which happens every evening. and Ross Island is under the control of Navy.
Yep.
So you have to pay a small nominal ticket to enter the island, and you also have to pay for the boat, and you have to even take the ticket of the show, so which all happens online. One thing interesting about Andaman is that half of the things are online and half of the things are offline. Things which are offline are very hard to get, and things which are online are also very hard to get because there's no internet.
Oh, right. Yeah, I think I was just reading up about this as well. Obviously, given the way it's situated, right, it's pretty far off from India, so that's why it has to still rely on satellite connections and everything for the internet. But I believe they're in the process of laying out undersea optic fibers. So hopefully, in the near future, this problem should be resolved, right?
And the funny thing is that India is running on Geo. There's no Geo in Andaman at all.
Mota Bhai will have to do something about this. I hope he does so soon. But yeah, really different also, right? Ross Island from the rest of the places in Andaman, given that this was the administrative capital for a while. Like you said, all of these buildings and all of them are in ruins, but it's just that very kind of different from the rest of the places you might have seen in Andaman.
Yeah.
So definitely make it a point to check out Ross Island and the show as well. Now this was what, day 2 or day 3?
Yeah, you can call it day 2 end.
Okay. And what was the plan from here? Even before we get there, how far from Port Blair did you say was a trip to Ross Island?
So 2 kilometers only.
Okay.
And you have to take a boat. Now they're running new boats, and it takes about 350 rupees to and fro from Port Blair to Ross Island. Just 2 kilometers, but it's expensive, I will say.
Okay. Cool. Sounds good. And what was the plan next for the next day? Were you back in Port Blair now, and where were you looking to cover off?
Yes, so next day now was planned for the island holiday, Neil Island, which is now called as Shahid Dweep.
Yep.
So Neil Island was next, and now because not much of tourists were there in Andaman, so the very famous ferry which is called Makaruz, it was not running. So Makaruz is a fast way to get to Neil Island, and from Port Blair to Neil Island is about 47 kilometers, which on Makaruz you can reach in about 1 hour, but we had to take a government ferry. Now booking a government ferry is a big pain. It's only 37 kilometers and it will take about 2 hours. But to get that ticket, you will have to spend about 2.5 hours also. Why? Because you have to go to a district collectorate office, DC office. You have to put in a name that you want to go to Neil Island one day in advance. And then you have to wait to see your name in the list. If your name appears on the list, then you go to the port, you buy a ticket, and then you sit on the ferry. So it was a bit tedious task. And I think this is where some of the companies, they saw a loophole and they started their own services. Now I did this whole myself because I wanted to see the process. But if you're going to a fancy hotel, if you're booking a fancy hotel, they will book it for you, the government ferry, and they will charge a handsome amount of top up on that. So the boat from Port Blair to Neil was 560 rupees per person, but if you will tell your hotel guy, they will charge you 1,000 rupees. So the next day was in Neil Island. Neil Island is a very small island. They used to call Neil Island as a food bowl of Andaman. A lot of agriculture used to be there on Neil Island, but sadly not anymore, because most of the islanders, they have sold their land to resorts and hotels, and now everywhere, wherever you'll go around the beach side, you will only have resorts or hotel property. So we went to Neil Island. Here, staying in Neil Island can cost you minimum 5,000 a night, plus food, whatever extra, because it's an expensive island to be on. So as soon as we got down from the jetty, there's a big long pier. You have to walk before you enter Neil Island. And as soon as you enter the Neil Island, there will be a lot of auto walas, there will be a lot of bike walas coming to you and asking, sir, bike le lo ya auto le lo. I think the best way to be around Neil Island is to take an auto, because the bike will cost you 500 rupees a day, and then you will have to put in a fuel. Rather take an auto who will charge 700 rupees and will be with you for 24 hours, and there's not much to do in Neil Island. Just to spend 24 hours is good enough. So we reached Neil Island at around 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and then we stayed at a beach property which was at Ramnagar beach. There are four main beaches at Neil Island. So there is one Ramnagar, there is one Sitapur, there is one Bharatpur, and there is one
Right.
Lakshmanpur. So a lot of
Ramayana
you can
influence.
a lot of Ramayana is happening at Neil Island, huh?
Yeah.
So we were staying at Ramnagar beach where swimming is not possible because it's all coral, a lot of
Oh,
corals
wow.
around. One of the beautiful beaches around is Sitapur beach. It has a vast seashore, beautiful white beach it is. So Sitapur beach was about 2.5 kilometers away from us, so we just went walking there. And with auto, we could go to other beautiful places like Lakshmanpur. Lakshmanpur beach is known for sunset. You see beautiful sunsets around Lakshmanpur. You will see a lot of people coming with their GoPros and putting a time lapse there, seeing the sun going down. But sometimes, like the day we went, the sun had its own way of disappearing because of the
Close. Yeah.
clouds, so it went behind the clouds.
Okay.
But after, when it went behind the clouds, the sky was pink and it was beautiful to see that. So sunset point at Lakshmanpur beach is a must do on the day one if you are at Neil Island.
Okay.
And one fun fact about Neil Island is that you get mango at Neil Island, I think almost 12 months.
Really?
And they have their own style. Yeah, they have their own kind of mango. It's small, it's khatta meetha. Even the bananas they have, it is khatta meetha in taste. And they have their one kind of their own fruit which is called amla in their local language. So we tried their all local fruits there in Neil Island. And then there is only one good beach to swim, which is Bharatpur beach, which is next to the jetty
Okay.
where you arrive. You can walk into the water for a long time and still the water will be just your waist height. And they have good marking, and they have life buoys everywhere around the beach. So very safe to swim around Bharatpur beach and do all the water activities also. A lot of water activities like jet skiing
Right.
and banana boats. All those water activities which you see can be done at Bharatpur beach.
Another interesting fact I saw was this natural bridge or Howrah
Correct.
Bridge that they call. Did you get a chance to go there?
Yes. I was just about to tell you about that. So this was second day for
Okay,
us.
good.
So the auto wala also, they also have a set itinerary. They will not let you change the itinerary. So he said, sir, natural bridge तो कल होगा. वो इसलिए कल होगा क्योंकि उसको दिखा के मैं आपको जेटी पे छोड़ूंगा ताकि आप चले जाओ. Otherwise, you're going to spend a lot of time at natural bridge. And natural bridge is very beautiful. So if you see Durdle Door of UK, Durdle Door is a massive bridge looking thing. It's a miniature thing, but the way the when we go to natural bridge, the process of reaching there is beautiful, because on the way you will walk through corals and you will see fishes all around you. So as soon as you go to the point from where the trek begins to natural bridge, which is just about 20 minutes trek, not much, there will be guides standing down there, and they will say, sir, we will go and show you some nice marine life, we will show you some different species of fish around. So you have to do a small trek, get to the coral area, watch the fishes around you, and then take pictures and go back.
Yeah, it's almost like a arch, right? It's not very huge, but again, it's magnificent given that it's natural formation on the beach. So definitely do not miss it out. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the only attraction, I will say, at Neil Island, because others are just the beaches and sunsets.
Yeah.
But when you see Natural Bridge, you feel okay. You've seen something different at this island.
Yeah, definitely. From here, did you head back to Port Blair the following day?
No, so we went from here to Swaraj Deep,
Okay.
but usually an itinerary will be like that. People from Port Blair, they will go to Swaraj Deep, which is Havelock first, and then Neil, and then they come back. But because not much of frequency of boats were there, we did this route.
Okay, so your next stop was Havelock Island, or Swaraj Deep, as it was renamed very recently. I think 2018 was when
In 2018.
officially renamed. But yeah, how was your stay and visit to the Havelock Island?
Okay, so Havelock is a bigger island, and when you hit Havelock, you get that feeling of Goa vibe just hits you because it is much. You will see banks around you. You will see a bus there. As soon as you get off the boat, you will see a bus standing there, which will take you around the beaches. And also, as soon as you hit the jetty of Havelock Island, you will see a big branding of Make My Trip, if I can take the name.
Yeah, that's fine. They're not sponsoring the show, but yes.
So again, just like when we reached Neil, there were a lot of people approaching us for scooty and auto. Same way in Havelock. As soon as we reached Havelock, there were a lot of people who were approaching us with scooty and auto. So 500 rupees a day is what they say, but if you negotiate here at Havelock, you can get it for 300 rupees as well. So we got a scooter for 2 days for 300 rupees. And another good tip which I want to give you, because we were traveling from mainland and you can expect that we will have a suitcase and a small bag, but when we were traveling around islands, we just kept a small bag with us and we left the big suitcase with our driver. So it's important to have a trustworthy person at Port Blair where you can keep your stuff if you want to travel light.
Right.
And because we were going to islands, so we traveled light.
Okay, I think that's a good tip. Yeah, definitely. And especially in your case, traveling around with a kid, it would have made a lot of sense.
Yeah. So Havelock is about 41 or 42 kilometers away from Port Blair. Again, it's a 2.5 hour journey from Port Blair, but from Neil it's 1.5 hours. So we took a 1.5 hour journey from Neil to Havelock. So as soon as we landed, we took a scooty and we went to a accommodation. So we booked a government accommodation. So at Havelock there's a resort which is called Dolphin Resort. We usually you don't get booking in this resort quite easily because of the season and everything, but because of the changing times, we could get the booking, and the stay was here for about 3,000 rupees a night, and the cottage was just right at the beach. Another fun fact is that the film Sky is Pink, which was Farhan Akhtar and Priyanka Chopra, they also shot couple of scenes here at Havelock Island, at this island.
Interesting, okay.
And they shot it at the beautiful location of Radhanagar beach, which is said to be world number 7 in the most popular beaches by Time magazine, and number 1 beach in India, they call it. So we went to Radhanagar beach on day 2 of our trip. Day 1 was relaxing because the property was so good and it was right at the beach, so we were just around the beach, and we stayed indoors. We had food at the restaurant and we just stayed indoors. But second day we went to Radhanagar beach because it is said to be the best beaches, and truly it is a really good beach. The sand is very, very smooth, and the current is little higher, and it is just right for swimming. But there's another very interesting beach around here which is called Elephanta Beach. To get to Elephanta Beach, you have to trek. And again, we did a trek for about 2.5 kilometers trek. Again, I had a baby in my arms, and tall trees, forest area, and they always recommend you to take a guide because there are several routes and terrains and trails you encounter when you are going on to this trek. But we were following another guide, so we could reach there. But it is always recommended to take a guide on this trek because there are a lot of confusing routes on this trek.
Yeah, basically from
and
the
Elephanta Beach.
Havelock Island, you kind of trek your way through to the beach, right? That's what you're saying? Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. And Elephanta Beach is also known for water sports activities. It had just opened because not many places were open when we went, but Elephanta Beach had just opened that time.
Okay.
So we took this trek. We went there, and there were a lot of water activities like snorkeling. Again, there is a guide. You should take a guide and go and snorkel around. And then there is a underwater sea walk, which I did in Thailand, but here they were taking you on a boat, and they will take you in a cubicle. They will put you at the seabed and you can do the sea walk. And then there was another thing, and there was normal scuba. So earlier, to do scuba here at Havelock, one had to pay about 5,500 for a dive. But because of the time, people they were charging just around 2,500 for a scuba. So I felt that that is the cheapest one can ever get to do a scuba experience. 2,500 was amazing. And I could see that a lot of people from mainland have gone there to do a PADI course, a scuba diving course. So people take scuba diving course for about 10 days and they spend about 28,000 rupees and they get the PADI certification. So Andaman is also known for doing scuba certification. So if you are that kind of enthusiast, I think you should go to Andaman, and it will be very cost effective and you will get a scuba certification also done. So yeah, Havelock has got some great beaches like Radhanagar Beach, Elephanta Beach, Kalapathar Beach. So we didn't go to Kalapathar because we were just staying at the property which was on the same stretch.
Right.
So we could imagine that. And once my wife and the baby, they both went to the sea, and she was bitten by a small little sea creature. So she felt that, okay, I don't want to do much of beach. So after a while, when you have seen so much of beaches, you feel tired of beaches also, to be very honest.
Yeah, that's there. But definitely a lot of things to cover off at Havelock Island in terms of beaches, and Radhanagar Beach being the most beautiful and the most iconic one. What else did you like? How long was your stay at Havelock? Vaibhav, was this a couple of days, you said?
Yes, so we did 2 days in Havelock because I knew that it's a bigger island, and I wanted to take a break from packing and unpacking because we had been doing it for every day now. So we wanted to take a break in Havelock and do it for 2 days. So another interesting thing, like I told you, scuba is must do in Havelock. Another thing is kayaking. Go for the kayaking experience. I am told, because my brother has gone to Havelock earlier. So he told me that the night kayaking is beautiful. You see those plants which lit up in the night. So that is very interesting to see. So make a point that you do a kayaking. We didn't do it, but yeah, if your listeners are planning a trip, they must do kayaking. And eating out at Havelock is interesting. Like I said, as soon as we entered, I got that vibe of Goa. A lot of cafes around the road. There's a cafe called Something Different there. And that is the same cafe where Priyanka Chopra and Farhan Akhtar, they all dined out there. And then there are a couple of good hotels around which have got nice cafes. So go out, have good seafood. I had lobster on Christmas Eve there, and I also had nice grilled fish. So yeah, make a point that when you are in Havelock, have good seafood.
And overall, like in the second day, was it mostly beach hopping at Havelock, or what did you spend time on?
So it was mostly beach hopping at Havelock, eating at good places, because that is what you can do at Havelock. It's very laid back. Sadly, the time when we went, it was all quiet. So very less tourists. All you can see is the Chuda Brigade, like I said, honeymoon couples with red things. The guide in Port Blair, he told me that a lot of people come here as honeymoon couples, and you are the one who's come. You have come with baby. You are one step ahead of them.
But Derai Durusta, you should have said you should have told him your story that you were supposed to come here 5 years ago. But nonetheless, I think looks like overall it's been a wonderful time that you've spent. I mean, honeymoon or otherwise, it's definitely a great place to come and check out, right? Were there more places that you had planned in your itinerary, or was this one of your last stops before heading back?
This was my last option before heading back, and it is always good to have a buffer day in Port Blair because your flight can be preponed or postponed, and when you are in islands, you might not get a signal to see an email or a SMS. But another fun fact which I want to tell you about Port Blair and the area is a 20 rupee note. So if you will take out a 20 rupee note from your pocket, the orange color, the old one, not the new ones, it has a lighthouse on it. And that lighthouse is from Andaman. It is from Mount Harriet. It's a second highest peak in Andaman, Mount Harriet. It's a lighthouse which is situated at North Bay. You can view this lighthouse while going to Neil, because your ship will go by that, go past that. And if you're even doing a Ross Island and North Bay trip, you can even go up to the lighthouse, and it is behind the 20 rupee orange note. So another fun fact there.
Yeah, that's an interesting bit of trivia that even I came across when I was looking up for this. And like while we're at trivia, a quick one that I'll give you as a reminder from maybe something we have kind of touched upon in school as well. But the southernmost point of India, right? Not mainland India, but the southernmost point of India, Indira Point, is also a part of the
Yes.
Andaman Islands, but it's obviously much further down south. That's another interesting thing that I came across, and the most mind-blowing point that I had never heard of before, but I just figured out was Barren Island, right? India's only
Yes.
active volcano apparently is on this island. It's a bit offbeat, so might not be a part of your usual itinerary.
And I think it is not even accessible to tourists also. I don't feel that it is
There are
accessible.
boat rides, I believe, but again, these are on specific days and stuff like that, so it might not be as easily accessible. But one of the options, again, some of it might be dated, so you definitely have to do your reading up and checking if this is still accessible. But yeah, India had a active volcano all along, and I didn't know about this. Barren Island is where that active volcano, smaller one. It's not a huge volcano or an island, but something offbeat if you really want to extend your itinerary and stick around here. And just kind of making a quick reference to how Andaman has been in the news recently also, right? The North Sentinel Island, or the Sentinelese people, you might have read about this in the news. I mean, it's probably a couple of years ago, I guess. But this is where one of the last remaining isolated tribes, right? Indigenous tribes of the island. And these are the ones which we refer to as the uncontacted tribes. They remain. And an American tourist called John Chow, he was the last one, who kind of went there trying to, I think, spread Christianity, or he was a Christian missionary as well. So he went there and he was killed by those people there. They're a little aggressive and prefer to remain by themselves. So previous attempts at contact have mostly been unsuccessful. So yeah, another bit of pop culture that you could kind of just add in there. So a lot of things to do while you're deciding an itinerary, and you have a lot of options to choose from as well. Any final thoughts from your side, Vaibhav?
Yes, so if you have a buffer day in Port Blair and it's not raining and you have something to do, just go visit some museums around Port Blair. One of the museum is Anthropology Museum, where you will know about the tribes more. So you were just talking about tribes. So there are other three tribes in Andaman: the Jarawas, the Great Andamanis, and Onge. So you can go and check the way they live, their photographs, their houses, and they have been on these islands from past 55,000 years. And I think Marco Polo or somebody or some traveler, they said that they can kill people, like they're so much possessive about their place. So just go and check out the way they live. So when we were coming back, I was just on a lookout for some kind of a souvenir which I should take back, because I felt there is lack of culture there, because so many people from Punjab, Tamil Nadu and Bengal, they have reached Andaman, that the place has not got its own culture. So I was looking for a souvenir. So what I got back was a souvenir in form of a Jarawa tribe. So it's a couple with a child. So we also traveled as a couple with a child. So I thought just to make this trip memorable, so we bought a small couple and a child Jarawa tribe figure. Another thing is that when you go to any of these islands and you find corals, do not pick and bring it back, because you can be caught at the airport. It is illegal. When we went to Maldives, we brought some corals, which was fine, but from Andaman it is not allowed.
Okay, interesting.
So that is, I would say. And whenever you're planning a trip, it's always good to get in touch with a local there and have a nice trip.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Vaibhav, for giving us so many pro tips on the way as well, along with the wonderful experience of your itinerary that you shared. And for me, I think when you first spoke about, and even in general, whenever I think about islands, it gives me just my childhood vibes, I guess, where we used to kind of read about Treasure Island and Robinson Crusoe and all of these. So all of that packed into one, and much more. Not just the beautiful beaches, but other lovely things you could do, and the whiff of history as well that the place has to it. All of it, I think, makes for a wonderful, wonderful itinerary. And the best part is that it's very close to India, although it feels like an international tour or a trip that you have done. So thank you so much for covering it off beautifully.
Thank you.
That was yet another great episode of the Musafir Stories. If you guys like the show, please subscribe to us on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, Savan, Pocket Casts, Castbox, Stitcher, or any other podcasting app available on iOS or Android. Please do leave us a review on iTunes. It goes a long way in the show's discoverability. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. We go by the handle The Musafir Stories. Or, if it suits you, you could email us at themusafirstories@gmail.com or visit our website at www.themusafirstories.com for more information. All of these links will be made available in the show notes section of each episode. So here's to more traveling, sharing, and inspiring. Stay tuned for our next episode. Until then, happy travels and goodbye.